Once again, we gather in search of the truth, dark, and mystery. It's the Drunk Turkey Show.
Big development today in the investigation into the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. According to state and local officials and court documents, 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kohberger has been arrested. He was arrested and arraigned this morning in Pennsylvania.
We have new details on what Bryan Kohberger was doing right before his arrest. Police says a tactical team burst in to arrest the Idaho murder suspect. He was in pajamas and latest gloves, stuffing trash into Ziploc bags.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Philip J. Fry, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
Just like every other podcast. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the DT Show. Tonight, I think we have an excellent show for you guys. I have a special guest that's going to be joining us, a fan favorite, a returning guest. We're going to be talking about the the Spencer Tepe and Monique Tepe murders with involving the alleged murderer, Michael Mckee. And there's a lot of new information that's come about here recently, some more documents, and we're going to look at a couple of pair of documents tonight, give our opinions, and hopefully have a great conversation with you guys. So please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Without further ado, let's bring in Dr. Jaime Vona. Dr. Vona, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good, Daniel. How are you? I literally just got done work like 2 minutes ago. How you doing?
I'm glad that we got to get here on time then. I'm doing well. It's my Friday. I'm off tomorrow, so I'm excited. It's going to be a good night.
Oh, good.
And so, yes, ma'am. And so this case, we talked a little bit about it. It seems like we have our opinion on something, and then a short time later, it seems like it's been kind of proven what we're saying to be true. Anything surprise you before we get into anything about some of the stuff that we're hearing about Mr. Mckee?
Well, I will say that when we first touched upon this and I was talking about attachment identity, I usually don't do this, but I feel like I have to because I should, whatever. So I was going with the whole adoption thing and how I felt like this, for me at least, and this is just my opinion, but I feel like by him, a lot of people were saying, do I think he spared the kids because he just wasn't thinking about the kids or he didn't dislike kids or whatever? I actually think that it has to do with him transferring his pain onto them. So almost as the ultimate revenge, if you will, against the couple. So if you think about it, he had to be adopted. He felt abandoned and all those things. And now he just does that to the kids. So he leaves them abandoned. He leaves them needing to be adopted. And it's almost like he just transferred his pain onto them. But anyway, the point I'm telling you that is because I'm now hearing other people talking about that. So that's exciting because that's never happened to me before.
Well, you're a brilliant woman, and we're glad to have you. And I'm not surprised that some of your thoughts are coming to fruition here. And so, but yeah, no, you're absolutely right about some of this identity stuff and the adoption thing. And his fixation on his ex-wife. It's tremendous. And so let's break it down. We're going to read the affidavit in support of probable cause. And then there's another document that kind of talks a little bit more about the scenarios of what occurred. So the summary statement of facts in support of probable cause: on December 30th, 2025 at 9:57 a.m., Columbus Police Patrol officers were dispatched to 1411 North 4th Street on a check on a well-being of Dr. Spencer Tepe, who had not shown up to work. Officers arrived and found Dr. Tepe and his wife, Monique Tepe, deceased inside, suffering from gunshot wounds. 2 minor children were found inside of the home unharmed. Columbus Fire Medic number 7 responded and pronounced both victims deceased at 10:11 a.m. Columbus Police Homicide Unit team were advised and responded and initiated an investigation. Early on in the investigation, detectives were advised by identifiable friends and family of Monique Tepe that Monique had told them her ex-husband, Dr. Michael D. Mckee, had been abusive and had made numerous threats on her life during and after their marriage. The identifiable witnesses told detectives that Monique had shared an allegation against Michael Mckee of forced unwanted sex and strangulation. So let's stop right there first and foremost. So very early on, they had an idea of this person as being an issue. You know, certain persons, I think it was his boss, a lot of their friends were calling 911 right away. Because they didn't show up to work. Do you think they were aware as well of what was going on, and that was part of the reason why they were calling 911 so bad?
Well, this is the thing. I think
So
for
fast.
that, I think that when you listen to the 911 call, the owner that's in Florida, it seems like to me that he's calling because it's abnormal for Dr. Tepe not to come to work on time. But I feel like for the others, they felt like for them, I felt like they had more of like a sense of urgency, and they mention her too more. I think he does too at some point. He says that the wife not answering is even more concerning. So he does mention her. But I'm not sure. I think it could be both. I think it was probably a little bit of both, that he's usually there, plus the fact that she has this. So who knows? What do you think?
I think so too, especially when we find out a little bit more information in the next page about, her leaving a football game because of her ex-husband. I think that there was some folks around her inner circle that were aware of the problems. And I think that there was some concern there. The unfortunate thing is that there was a lack of what seems to be a lack of response. I don't know this to be true, but it doesn't seem like there was any documents or things of that nature that were put in. And so, like, for instance, it doesn't seem like there was any arrests, not arrests, but any court documents, complaints or anything like that from the Tepes referencing, what was going on with the ex-husband. And so maybe perhaps there is that, and we're going to find out that she had reported him throughout this entire process, of them going through the divorce and then her moving away and, finding another man, getting married. I wonder if we're going to find out there's more reports. Do you think that that's a possibility? I would assume it would be in here, and it's not. So I'm assuming it's not. You're muted.
Sorry about that. I had it muted because the dog was like barking in the background, but I got it so that before he did it. But anyway, so I do think that I think the friends and the way that the friends, I agree with you, they don't put it in there, but I think the friends do a good job of helping fill in some of those blanks. What do you think?
What do you mean?
Wait, repeat your question. Maybe I heard you wrong.
What I was saying was that, oh gosh, maybe I forgot.
So I thought you were saying like about the police officers and like that it wasn't in there.
Oh, so what I was saying was that, that do you think we're going to find out that there was reports of threats and things of that nature? I would assume that if there was, it would be in this probable cause affidavit. It's not like they arrested this guy one day, to the next. It was about 11 or 12 days later after they arrested him. I would have assumed that they would have brought up those, complaints, instead of having to go to these accusations that were made to friends. You get what I'm saying?
That's what I was saying. I was going to say that the friends, that's what I meant by the friends, that it seemed like different, but I don't know that if that was after the fact or if that was, how much that had to do with them thinking it was him, or was it after the fact when they found out he was a suspect saying like, she's told me this, that, and the other.
Now, what about the alley?
Documented.
Yeah, it's probably not documented. If it was, I would assume they would have used that versus the friends, words, because that comes into like somewhat of like hearsay type of thing, which I'm probably using the term hearsay wrong here.
And not just that, people also have to remember that a lot of times it just makes the person more furious. So sometimes the victim, even though You would hope that they would tell somebody. They often don't, out of fear of retaliation.
Right. This goes on to, yeah. This also says that there was an allegation of forced unwanted sex and strangulation. What does that tell you, if true, about Michael Mckee, about the psyche of a person who takes that from another person and uses strangulation as a form? What does that say to you, as a psychologist?
It definitely has, in my opinion, something to do with like his control and power that he was trying to assert over her. And it's almost like, you know, by holding someone's neck and strangling them, and the fact that if you can overpower them, it's almost like, you know, your life's in my hands. Like, don't mess up. I think it had to do with power and control. Do you agree?
I do.
Right?
It talks about the power. It talks about control, possession. You know,
Possession.
I think that all those things wrap up in there. The next sentence is interesting. Goes, another identifiable witness, so this is somebody that's different, told detectives that Michael D. Mckee had told Monique that he could kill her at any time and would find her and buy the house right next to her, and that she will always be his wife. To me, this almost sounds like this is somebody who is repeating something that Michael Mckee told them that he had told her, versus something that, this is a different witness. This is a separate witness. So I wonder if this witness is recounting something that Michael Mckee told him, referencing telling Monique that he was going to take her life at any time and would find her and buy the house right next to her, and that she will always be his wife. Or, you know, the way I read that, it's just what it kind of sounds like, versus it saying that another witness told detectives that Monique told them that Michael had stated to her that he would kill her at any time. You get what I'm saying?
1,000%. I totally get what you're saying. 1,000%. That's absolutely right. In my opinion. And it shows like a part of his personality too. So not only does he do the unwanted strangulation and unwanted S, he also is telling her that he'll live next door. If you just think about that, like how frightening that must be to someone, to think that like you're not even afraid that I have a husband or anything. Like, he's just like, you're mine, always be my wife. And so just the whole, I think we need to look at that too. The fact that he wasn't afraid to, like, you know, step into someone else's realm, if you will. If anything, he threatened it. Oh, thank you, Derek. Works of control. Yes, I did say that too, that earlier. So you're absolutely right.
Now, the other thing too is that, what do you think about the fact that he is, if I'm reading this correctly, and I could be reading it wrong, but if the witness is a witness that Michael had spoken to and said these words to, what do you think about the fact that he's openly telling other people that he would take the life of his wife and find her house and live right next to her, and she'll always be his wife? If that's the way it happened. I mean, it's very well possible he told that to Monique. Monique told that to a friend, and this just so happens to be a different witness than the one before. But if it's a witness, you know, that's recanting this or reaccounting this from Michael, what does that say about Michael willing to say this out loud to somebody else?
Well, I think it would depend. So it would depend on his personality and how he is with other things. So if he, like, there's people, I have to be honest, that I've talked to before, and people like confide in me and stuff. And there's a lot of people that are upset, and they're like, you have no idea, I really could have killed him, like that. And so it's like, did somebody, like, now they're looking back and they're like, oh my gosh, you used to say that? Or was it like that they really thought that he was serious? Because I'm thinking it was probably more of her friend, in my opinion. It was probably somebody that she confided in. Also, because he would then have to admit to someone that he would, like, if he was being serious and was like, I really told her I would da-da-da-da-da. Like, I don't know. What do you don't think it was someone from her?
It could be, you know, but if it was somebody from Michael's side, I think that just shows of a lack of control, you know, a lack of, you know,
which is why I don't think that it was from his side, because he wouldn't want for anybody to think that he was out of control.
Maybe. I mean, him wanting not nobody to see that and him losing control are two different things. You know
That
what I
is
mean?
true. That's
And
true.
so we'll see. I mean, there's another part that when we get to the next page that kind of screams that out to me, that he was losing control of
Oh,
himself.
yes, he was.
Obviously, I mean, he ended up committing this crime, but um, I think there's a part where it almost he doesn't care that he's going to get caught, and I'll explain it here on the next page. But this goes on to say, during the investigation, detectives were able to identify a suspect through the neighborhood video surveillance. The suspect was tracked to a vehicle which arrived just prior to the homicides and left shortly after the homicides. The video of this vehicle was very distinct features, allowing detectives to identify both a stolen Ohio license as well as an Arizona license being displayed on it at different times. Further, searches showed this vehicle to be associated with the past address of Michael Mckee, as well as his current work address in Rockford, Illinois. Additional video was obtained and showed Mckee had in his possession of the vehicle prior to and after the homicides. So they have video of him with possession of the vehicle before and after. So they have him inside the car. I'm assuming this is probably toll roads going in between that you're having to go into, and it's taking you pictures, taking pictures of him going in and out. The fact that he used Ohio stolen license plates, that tells you more about the, in my opinion, the premeditation aspect of this crime. And so, what are your thoughts on the fact that he used stolen license plates? Do you think that he has any ground to stand on to say that this was some sort of act of passion? Because with an act of passion, there's no premeditation aspect to it. It's a loss. It's losing your mind out of passion in the moment. This all screams a lot of
Right. And if he
calculation.
was there on the 6th, that was well before. So for me, that would mean that he was premeditating this and that it was in his head for a while. Plus, he had to, I mean, I don't know if he just already had weapons, but there's a lot that goes into that. And he does like that dry run, if you will, and stays there for hours. So for me, I don't think that.
Oh, I don't think it was a dry run.
All right. So you think he went to like surveil?
No.
Oh, the first time? Why did he go? Tell us.
Oh, I think he was going to go kill them that day.
Oh, see, that's why you're the detective.
I wasn't a detective, but oh yeah.
Well, you know what I mean.
And I'll tell you why here in a minute. So let's look at it. Let's transition. So
You're our detective, Daniel.
Detectives also recovered a video of the same suspect entering the curtilage of 1411 North 4th Street on December 6th and exiting a few hours later when the Tepes were away. Now, the curtilage is like the frontage area, a little covered part. It shows him entering it. It doesn't say that he stayed in the curtilage. I believe he made entry into the house that day, and he was inside that house. You know, you're not at the entry just sitting there at the front door or on the side or on the eaves of the home for hours. Now, these dates are consistent with video recovered of a silver SUV that are consistent with the dates in which Michael D. Mckee was not on schedule at St. Anthony's Hospital. On January 9th, detectives seized a silver SUV bearing the Arizona temp tag from the lot at St. Anthony's Hospital. Detectives noticed a fresh scrape marks on the window where the sticker, which had been on the vehicle prior to the homicides, had been hastily removed. So he tried to make his vehicle look different than what it was before. And here's the interesting part. So I'm just going to, okay, so during the time of the homicides, Michael Mckee's phone had been left at St. Anthony's Hospital. So remember when I told you he left it on a cot? That ended up being true. And then here's the thing. On December 6th, Monique and Spencer Tepe were at the Big Ten championship game in Indiana on December 6, 2025. Monique went back to her hotel room early in the second half. An identifiable friend asked Spencer why Monique had left the game. He told them she was upset about something involving her ex-husband and was going back to the hotel. That's the same day that he's in the curtilage, December 6th. So while he's in the curtilage, he's doing something that is upsetting her. Now, does he know that she's at the game? It's possible, you know, if they put anything online, if he still has mutual friends, if his mutual friends were her friends that were going, that's quite a bit of a possibility. But I wonder if he, you know, what he was trying to do And him waiting there for hours was to upset her and in hopes that they would return home and he would be there.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know, I think he was.
What do you think he could have said that would have made her come home?
Well, remember the last statement? I'm going to find where you live. I'm going to move next door. Something of that nature.
Maybe like taking a picture or something of him outside, or
that, or maybe he told somebody something that he knew was going to get to her. Like, you know, he's probably a manipulative person. And so like if I know, like, for instance, if I'm him and I know that, you know, she has a friend that I'm a mutual friend of, that if I bring up her name, that I know for a fact that she's going to bring it up to her. And all he has to do is mention something like, hey, you know, I'm thinking about moving to Columbus, Ohio. Found a nice street over, you know, a nice home, you know, on 14th Street or whatever it was. Doesn't have to say I found her. Doesn't have to say anything like that. Just enough information that the friend would know and that he would know would get back to her. And then that could cause her to be upset. And he's doing it while he's there or just before, in hopes that she's going to come home at that time while he's there because she's going to be upset.
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought of that. And to be honest with you, it didn't. I think I just not assumed, but to me, I was like, I thought that maybe he saw on social media or knew from friends that she was going to be away. And so he might have saw that as an opportunity to go there and maybe even forge a way to get in for the next time. Like maybe, you know, break something or something like that to where nobody would be alerted because they weren't there. He was there for a few hours. You did say, so I do have a question there real quick. They say, do you think that if he went in the house, they would have told us that?
I don't know if they know that he went into the house, but I don't find it a coincidence that while he's there, she's getting upset. Like if what you're saying is true, that he wanted to covertly go in there, do something without anybody knowing, and then, you know, making her upset during that moment, you know, where somebody could call, she could call police to go check on the house, do all those things. I'm not saying what you're saying is true, but the fact that, you know, I would have found it more on what you're saying had Monique not gotten upset at that time that he was there. Because what time does it say that he was there? It says here that, well, we're assuming that it was at the same time that she was at the game. But if at the same time that she's at the game, he's harassing her while he's in her house, that's the part that kind of gets me into where, like, if his goal was to go in there, try to find a way to break in and get out of there, or set up something so he can get in later, and he knew that she was gone, I don't think he would be alerting her of him,
That's
you know,
true.
at that moment.
No, that is very, very, very true. I think I was thinking more like maybe take a picture of something on the outside of the house and maybe later on the way home where he knows that if she does call police, he'd be long gone. But like sending something to make it look like I know where you are type thing. That's why I was thinking that. And I was thinking that if he knew that she was away, it would be the perfect time to make sure he knew how to get in. But it never occurred to me that he could have went there thinking that they were home. What do you know what time he was there? Did it say?
It doesn't say.
Like, I wonder if it was daylight or at nighttime, because if it was at nighttime, then what you're saying is I could definitely see that. I don't know why that hadn't occurred to me. I wonder.
Well, they were at the Big Ten championship game. Let's find out when that was.
There you go.
We'll find out when the Big Ten championship game was.
That makes sense. What else? There was something else I was going to say real quick. We have to remember this guy has like an ego too.
Yeah.
So I'm sure, I'm sure he feels like rage and things like that. And especially if I think, I don't know.
It was at night. 8 p.m. Eastern is when it started. And it was
at night.
And it was in the second half. So second half would be probably 9:30.
You might be right. If it was dark out, he could have went there with the intent of doing it that night and just waited around and nobody ever came home.
Yeah. And then he got upset. He's waiting a while, trying to get her, saying something to someone so that she goes home upset and he can lay in wake.
If that was the case, that would have enraged him so much more because he would have thought that he was taking matters into his own hands that night, and then it doesn't work out. That would only enrage somebody even more.
Yeah. I wouldn't, I'm just saying, I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to do it beforehand. It seems like he has been contemplating this for a while and talking about it. I wouldn't be surprised if on December 6th, he was trying to go out there and do that and, waited out there for several hours. She never showed up. He had to get back. He had, if this is at night, right? Let's assume that this is happening during the game. He's driving from Rockford, Illinois. It's several hours. He's probably left his phone. Well, I'm assuming he doesn't. He probably has his phone, and the reason why I say that is because he's doing something somehow to affect Monique to the point where she leaves the game in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I know some people are saying if he's stalking, he knows where she's at. Not necessarily. I mean, it depends on how much he knows,
Yeah, but if she picks up that much of his thought process, I would assume that he would be keeping dibs on her.
I mean, keeping dibs on her and having access to like knowing, a lot of information. He also lived like how many hours away? And so, his stalking would be to what? Online, social media, through friends, trying to keep track. So, he's not going to have the most. It's not like Bryan Kohberger, who lived 10 minutes away, who was able to drive by the house multiple times. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you just made me think of something. Could he have gone there to put some sort of something that he could have used to surveil them?
Maybe. And I know a lot of people are saying that the Big Ten tournament is a big thing. How many of you guys knew I went to the Steelers playoff game?
I did.
I know you did, but how many other people knew I went? Not very many. So just because, and I didn't post any pictures online. I told a few people, but how many other folks knew? And when it comes to my friends, I posted one picture on my Snapchat, and none of my friends knew. They're like, "Well, you're at the game. You're at the game." I'm like, "Yeah." I didn't tell anybody. I don't post things on that. And if Monique is aware that this guy is a problem, she may limit the information that she puts out there.
She might, but what if they're going with a bunch of couples? Like, that's another thing. Like, he could have thought he was big into football and stuff. Is that a football thing I'm thinking, right?
The Big Ten championship game, yeah.
Okay, so he was big into football. He was a football player even in college, and they said he was like pretty good. So I'm wondering if this is like, I don't know if there was any mutual friends or if he could have seen her going with friends. He could have been following some of her friends. They could have put something up. So there's many ways, even though she was being cautious, it doesn't mean that everybody else had like thought about being cautious as well. I'm just thinking of different ways because either he knew she was gone and he went there for a reason to like surveil in some way, or he doesn't know she's there, in my opinion, and he goes there to do it and she's just not there. So he goes back. But I never thought of that before this. That was good.
And I know Sarah's saying that she's not aware. I think she's well aware. I mean, she told her friends a bunch of things according to this document, about him and things that, before and after they divorced, buy a house next to her, always be his wife. I mean, if that's towards her, that's one thing. And then what was the other thing? That identifiable friends, family, that her ex-husband was abusive, made numerous threats on her life before and after their marriage. So she was, these threats have been made after their marriage. So she's well aware,
It was a long time after. So you might it could have been that she was probably well aware, but you might think that after that much time, and I'm not saying she, but I just mean any person might think that okay, he's, he says all this stuff, but he never does anything. So I wonder how much she had dropped her guard down after so many years. But I don't know that would have mattered either way. Like, he was going in there to do what he was doing, and that was it.
Right. No, I agree. I'm just saying, I got, December 6th, she's still dealing with him.
Kel says he was torturing her. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, do you think that this all of a sudden spiked up, or do you think that this was happening off and on over the years?
That's a good question. So I think that over the years, he probably compared other females to her. I think he only had one other girlfriend after her. So he probably, and there was, I don't know what I heard, but it was him. I don't know what the interview was or what it was, the clip was from, but it was, he says something about how someday he does want to be a dad or whatever. So my thing is, what if he like, every now and then, I think in June, wasn't there something like a court date that accidentally came up? Like that could have just sparked, like he could have been moving on. That could have sparked his like his, all these emotions that like of anger. He could have went on, looked at that wedding video. I mean, who knows? That could have sparked everything too. So it could have been ongoing the entire time. Or
I'm pretty
it could have been
sure
ongoing with that trigger.
pretty sure it was ongoing. You know, when her friends are saying that, and again, the term that they used was that he was making threats before and after the marriage, you know, so not just during the time that they were together, while they were separate, while they were away
Right,
from
but
each
do you
other.
think that, was it recent? Do we know if any of the friends said like recently? Because it was this was many years, wasn't it? Like 8 years
Yeah, I
after?
mean, it was many years, but you know, then all of what you're saying is then all of a sudden this guy had no, you know, lost, you know, he didn't care. He found a girlfriend, then all of a sudden it spiked up over, you know, a
No,
couple
no,
months.
it would
I don't
always
think
be
so.
there. No, I agree with that. It would always be there. What I'm saying is, do you think, was that true that in June something came up? I'm saying, could that have been like
Well,
like the thing that
the
changes?
brother-in-law had said that the guy had always been trying to keep tabs on her through mutual friends and things like that.
So what could have changed though over those years? Because she's had kids.
Him
So like
finding her.
him finding her. That's what I mean. So could those court documents have maybe showed where she is, and that now gives him, it revs his engine. So it's always there, but I feel like there had, like in my opinion, there had to be something that, and again, it could have just been that he saw the video of her wedding room. I mean, it could have been many things, but I feel like there had to be something, because why now and why not after 7 years or 6 years, or I don't know.
Well, he was going through a bunch of stuff in his personal life as
That
well.
is true. He
And
was.
with his professional work, and he was, you know, something somewhat similar like Bryan Kohberger, where he probably felt like he was losing his career and things like that. And I wonder if he felt like, well, hell, if I'm going down, I'm going to take down who I, you know, probably have a lot of feelings towards one way or another.
Absolutely, for sure. But you just said something that reminded me of something. So you've been saying the Bryan Kohberger thing, right? So I've been like, I'm not making this connection. So I'm driving today and I'm thinking of, if I had to like identify this doctor with like a personality type, what would I think? And I came up with, this is just my opinion, you guys, and allegedly, the traits I'm saying is narcissistic with a little bit of antisocial traits, but I'm also seeing obsessive compulsive personality disorder. Who had those three things, in my opinion? Bryan Kohberger. And I had like a big like, and I was like, maybe there is something there as far as the personality characteristic.
I think there is, and I think it also has to do with some of the study and planning that he put into this.
That would be part of the personality characteristic. That would be that that perfectionism, that overachiever. Part of that's personality characteristic.
Yeah. And like I said, the one thing that made me think a lot like that this was somebody who planned this out, who was very calculated, was a few things, you know, where they parked, the fact that they went directly to that house. You know, you can see that the guy's walking down the alley. He's not looking at other vehicles or other houses to steal stuff. He's walking straight there. As he's passing the camera, he changes his gait and starts walking weird. And then he looks down the entire time that he was in view of the camera, and then looks up. The fact that there was no sign of forced entry, and the bodies were found inside of the bedroom without any sign of a motive initially, meaning that the house wasn't ransacked. It didn't look like somebody was trying to steal anything. You know, it also probably leads us to believe that there was probably not some sort of sign of struggle outside of anywhere outside of the bedroom, meaning that the confrontation and everything occurred in the bedroom, meaning he probably surprised one of them while they were asleep. The other one being probably most likely Monique Spencer waking up, and then him taking multiple shots as he's up and, you know, going towards, you know, the killer. And then leaves. And I think they only found like 3 shell casings. So either, old boy was shot just twice, or he somehow either picked up the shell casings or he did something so that way he could limit the possibility of losing a shell casing, i.e., perhaps wrapping a bag around his hand. I mean, he had a silencer, so he did some sort of planning. I wouldn't be surprised if he wrapped a bag around his hand or tied a bag around his hand with the gun in it in hopes that the bag was going to catch the shell casings. The only thing is, when you turn around and leave, there's a hole now at the bottom, where the muzzle shot off. And if you turn and you put your arm down, well, guess what the shell casings are coming out of? Now, you may not lose them all, but you might lose one or two. And, I wonder if that was the scenario, if he was shot more times. And even if he didn't have a bag, if he took the time to try to pick up the shell casings, that leads to a lot of, somebody who understood that they had to do that. They had to plan that, because if this was something that happened in the moment, the gunshot, the loud noise, the bang, that's going to scare somebody. They're going to think somebody is aware of it, of what occurred, and they're going to get out of there as fast as possible. To stop and pick up the shell casing says something about the person as well. So all those things added together, I was like, I just feel like this person is somebody that made a very calculated plan to commit this crime. And the thing is, there's no such thing as the perfect crime. Everybody messes up. And, when you have people that do these type of crimes, it's because they're not wired right. And when you have somebody not wired right, they're going to screw up, no matter how smart you are. And I think there's a lot of evidence here.
Add something to that right there. So in adult attachment theory, because I talked about attachment before here, and I talked about the difference, like how perception's reality, even when it's not real. So I think that he could have had like a heightened attachment and security, and anybody that's followed me knows that I talk about this often. A lot of people like it though, but this could have just meant that the key there isn't necessarily like his love for her, but more of a threat response and possession. So he could have still felt like she's still his. And that's more consistent with like control than connection, obviously. But the note that I have on my thing here with the star that I put earlier was attachment isn't just bonding. Attachment is also a threat system. When it's insecure, it can flip into I must regain control right now. So I just wanted to say that part.
Gotcha. Thank you. Let's see. Somebody brought up an interesting, oh, no, I think I unstarted. Mm-hmm. No, here it is. All right. He had a silencer, so he wouldn't have to worry about somebody hearing the gunshots, right? I mean, that's what you're going in, with that thought process, right? But as we learned last time, and I played it, it is a significant difference. The bass is taken out, but it is still fairly loud, with the silencer. And you have to picture that moment, right? You're in a room, dead of night, everybody's asleep. There's no cars driving by because it's 3:00 in the morning, 3:52 a.m. Everything is still. Everything is quiet. You're in a small room. Boom, boom, boom. There's echoes, reverberation of the sound coming back at you. It's going to sound amplified. Your adrenaline is rushing. And so what you're hearing, your senses are amplified. So the sound sounds even louder. And so even if he had a silencer, I'm sure it's going to sound extremely loud to him. And he's going to have to get out of there, which is why he left a minimum three behind. What do you think?
That sounds like something for an investigator. I think whatever you just said made sense to me. I'm just being honest. I feel like whatever I say there just isn't going to really make a difference. I think that's more of an investigator type thing. Right?
Yeah. It could be. I mean, I just think that in that moment, you just got to picture, put yourself in that situation and how loud it's going to be. And if you just committed a crime, then you're going to think everybody heard that. There was a dog in the home. That dog's probably going to start barking. The kids start crying.
Right. And that might alert someone.
Exactly. And so you don't have a lot of time. Adrenaline's kicking in. Panic is probably kicking in. Possibly fear. I don't know if this guy feels fear like most people do, but anxiety and stress are probably definitely kicking in. Mm-hmm. And, a fear of getting out and not getting caught. So
it's more like an excitement for them, but it is anxiety. They do feel anxiety in that moment as far as getting out of there. so that they don't get caught. We do have to remember that this guy, he also didn't have a cell phone, right? So like,
No.
I couldn't imagine, like a lot of times people, we can't leave our cell phones for the car ride to the store, let alone for 17 hours. So I wonder how, like the fact that he was able to leave his phone, that means that he knew how to get there, right? Like he didn't need, he wasn't like using, you know, he was using memory, I'm assuming, unless he wrote down directions, but I would assume that he's using memory. And if he was writing down directions, that they would be able to find that on his phone or whatever he was using. But as far as like the silencer and all, that does show that he was definitely planning this, in my opinion. And the fact that he switched the plates, didn't what's her name do that? The other one we followed with the curly hair.
Yeah.
With the plates? Oh my God.
Ashley Buzzard.
Yes, I couldn't get it out. So like, I think one of the things we see here, you guys, is the fact that a lot of times these people are either so hyper focused on what it is they're doing, at least with Bryan Kohberger and him, like it was almost like they were so hyper focused on that they weren't thinking about some of the other things that you and I or other people were like, duh, you didn't think of that. And part of that is their ego too. So it has to do with like control and their obsession of like looking at or focusing in on that thing. But then also that whole, I don't think I'm going to get caught. Like nobody's going to think it was me. I'm a surgeon. I'll just say I was at work. They'll see I was at work. And then that's it. They'll move on.
Exactly. And they think it's so simple and they've got all the answers.
Yes. And they don't think
find
that
themselves
we
in
could
bracelets.
Yes. And they don't think we could see right through it.
Bertie says, how do they know that the time of the crime happened at 3:52 a.m.?
That's a good question.
So the camera was it appeared to be one of those cameras from a light camera. And in the, for instance, in the Bryan Kohberger case, we knew from their light camera that audio picks up. So I wouldn't be surprised if you can hear the shots, you know, even with the silencer on one of those cameras, or maybe even perhaps cameras that are closer to the house.
Could it be those sounds or how they knew he had a silencer?
It could be, but I believe they found the weapon with the silencer on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they matched. I think ballistically it matched too. This guy's Dunskies.
Yeah, there is so much evidence against him. The only thing I could think of as a defense that they could possibly do is try to get all of like where they picked him up and, you know, the different with the car and stuff. But even if they got that dropped or for whatever reason, like if he tried to say that was against his Fourth Amendment rights, there's so much evidence. I feel like you could drop so many things and still find this guy guilty, in my opinion. There's just so much evidence here.
There is. I mean, this is a slam dunk case, and we've only seen 2 pages of things. Can you imagine? I mean, the Bryan Kohberger PCA was 19 pages, and people were trying to think that there was a lot of holes in that one. There's not very many holes in this one. You know, you got the vehicle, you got him pictured in the vehicle before and after the homicides, probably returning back to work, leaving at a specific time that would, you know, be consistent with their drive test data of how long it would take to get there and get back. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if there was DNA on the shell casings. You know, I mean, there's so much evidence. I wouldn't be surprised if there was gunshot residue on the seatbelt or on the armrest of the vehicle, or even on the steering wheel still. And
so wait, with that being said, could it just be that, like you said earlier, he just didn't care if he got caught at this point? I know we're speculating, but you said that earlier, and I'm thinking about that now. Like, I feel like you're rambling off these things, and it's not like one thing. Like, at least with Kohberger, he managed to get the car cleaned. Like, there was like little other things here. It just seems like so much. Could it really be that he didn't care at that point if he got caught? Maybe he thought that these lawsuits were going to take him down anyway, and that would have been like literally the crushing of any identity that he did have.
I think this guy kind of reminds me a lot of like popcorn, where it's a little bit of calculation and then pop, there's loss of control and don't give a crap. And then calculation, then don't give a crap. I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, there was somebody that tried to break into a house down the same street. If he didn't take his phone and he got lost and confused and went to the wrong home, and try to break into a home I think it was like a week or so. I think it was on the, maybe the 11th, you know, so about 4 days after he was there in the curtilage, you know, maybe perhaps he goes out there realizes he brought his phone, shouldn't have done that. Comes back a few nights later, gets lost because he doesn't have his phone, and then almost breaks into the wrong home, and then leaves. If that was him, I'm not saying it was. And then he leaves his phone back, and then he comes back. So he's kind of almost, I don't want to say getting better each time, but to a certain extent, getting better each time. And then just on the night that it happens, he lucked out. He found the right place without having his phone and made entry, maybe because he was there, and he did figure out a way to easily access the house and make it easily accessible again. I would assume it's through the back door because it sounded like that. I think that's where the other person that lived 3 blocks away had stated that the person was trying to make entry. If it was him, I'm not sure that it was, but if it was, I just think that there's a possibility that he just got better. But I think if it was him on December 6th and he took his phone and he was trying to antagonize her from leaving somewhere and head home so he can lie in wake and attack by surprise. I don't think he really cared too much of the calculation aspect of that. Maybe perhaps after that, maybe that was the initial night. Maybe he did just snap or something just spike up, and that was that day. And then afterwards, he started to plan it out, decide not to take his phone, decide to, leave his phone at work the day that he does do it, and get a silencer and get all these other things. Maybe, get what I'm saying? Maybe there was a little bit of progression there.
Absolutely. There could have been, or could he have, or if that was him, could it have been just to make it look like there's been break-ins? So like, oh, there's somebody broke in just a couple weeks ago. Like there's probably been break-ins around. I don't know. Could that have been it too?
It could have been. And I thought about that and I thought that if somebody did that, that's a lot of forethought, a lot of planning. And I
feel like that's this guy though. Don't you? I feel like that's this guy. Like he gets hyper focused on.
It does. The only thing that bothers me about it is that long trip back and forth just to do that. You know what I mean? It's an opportunity. And now he's not a criminal justice person. He's not an investigator. He got no training. He's not Bryan Kohberger.
So that could have made him more panicked or more like overthinking it. So he might have taken extra steps that maybe Kohberger knew he didn't have to do or shouldn't do.
Well, not necessarily that, but I think that if he going out there and trying to break into another house and trying to make it elude like there or assume that there was some sort of mass break-in and this is just a random act of burglary, to go out there and commit another crime like that, even if it's not actually making entry or anything like that. I mean, that's risking a lot, because you basically you are alerting somebody of something and they're going to call 911. They're going to call the police. You might be on video. They might do an investigation into that. And then that might point at you. And now you have to overcome that and that may prevent you from committing your actual crime. So I doubt it. I think more so.
Think that he didn't, that it probably was something altogether different because that now that you're saying that could have been enough to make him wait longer or whatever. Like that could have interfered with him even doing it the way that you just said that. So maybe he didn't even know about it.
A lot of people say things like, for instance, Bryan Kohberger, why did he go into the house with a bunch of cars in the front? And I'm like, well, he lacks control. I think the same thing with this guy. I think he lacks control. And so him breaking into another house and then like if somebody were to call and he flee and he got the wrong house, I don't think that's going to prevent him from going back.
The thing is, when it comes to control here, one of the things that I think that we see different with Kohberger and him is that they're high functioning, high achievers, and high functioning, high achievers are usually, they're very in control. To get to a doctorate degree, I have to be honest with you guys, you literally have to have control and you have to be an overachiever. Like it's so competitive. So to me, that says, and again, I think it has to do with power and control. I think you're right about that. So could it be that they have such control in, in these other areas and then feel out of control in that one area? Like you're making me think about a lot of things. That's why I like us having these conversations, because then I start putting more things together, like more in a full picture, and it totally makes sense. I think you're onto something there, Daniel.
Yeah, I just think I think he had a lot of things come easy to him, whether it was sports, whether it was, school and studying, and maybe perhaps it took some, work and ethic and stuff to get, to where he was. And, um, I think there's something that those folks who, uh, like achieve and achieve and achieve. And then when something doesn't go right for them and it starts to snowball, that they lose control pretty easier because they're not, they haven't had that built for adversity. They haven't been built for adversity, and they can handle adversity, in a very wrong manner if they don't have the right, wires connected. Am I making sense here?
Yeah, a little bit. I think I'm following.
Is it because like maybe perhaps this guy's just kind of gotten everything and he's always been like so for him to have gotten to where he did with collegiate football, he must have been very determined, and a person who
I agree with that.
practiced quite a bit, did a lot more, right? Stride, and then he got his doctorate, which I think that would probably take a lot of that as well. And so then you have him losing things, losing his wife, losing potentially his job and his career, getting sued and all these other things. If he didn't come up with a bunch of adversity, and even though he worked hard for everything that he had gotten, I think if he's not wired right, that type of adversity that late in life, I don't know. I guess maybe perhaps that could have some sort of effect like this.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Your earlier, development would, but I think that this has more to do with like attachment and like that threat activation related to attachment. So I think that we see coercive control with this guy, which is different. And I think I said it so many times that I feel like I need to tell people what it is real quick. Coercive control is different in that it seeks to get power and dominance over someone, which would be, a little bit different than control in other ways. So I think that for him, this is about dominance and about power and about him. What's the word I'm looking for? You said it earlier, like having, oh my gosh, what's the word? It begins with a P, I think. Like when you have power over somebody, that's what I'm trying to say though. When you have possession, that's the word. Look, good for you, Daniel. That's exactly what I was saying. So, possession, he's he's got that possessiveness. So I think that, and for her, I don't know, the whole football game thing I keep going back to, but with control, I'm still just confused about what his plans were. And I feel like before the live, I was like more solid about what I thought. And now I feel like I'm just all over the place with some of the things that you said that I'm putting together. And it's making me think a bunch of other things. So I'm interested to see how I feel in like an hour after I soak it all in. But that's good though, right? That's the best part about then going live with someone else, because if I didn't, I could do a live and I would just say what I think, which is probably very intelligent, but it's not the whole picture. So by talking to other people, and even like the people in the chat, like Sarah and other people, Kel, there was a lot of people that were talking tonight. So by putting all those things together, it really does help you reflect and just think about this in a bigger picture and how does that change things. So I'm going to have to like think about this whole thing and then tell people how I feel later. It's interesting. I'm sure we'll do it again.
So what do you think about this?
Tell me.
She left him, according to him, like I guess while he was like at work or something, and then he gets home and she's gone. If he drove all that ways away on December 6th, gets there and waits hours and she's not there, do you think there's like, I guess, some sort of like familiarity to that kind of scenario for him? Do you think that's triggering to him?
Oh yeah, that's what I was saying before. If for some reason that's true, what you said, that he was there to do that and they weren't there, that would have just made him so much more enraged, because in his mind, he was going to end that threat that day. Like he was going to take control and power. So I couldn't imagine if you're thinking that you're going to be the one that dominates today, and then you go there and you're waiting and waiting and waiting and wait to realize that they're not coming home. I can only imagine enrage the person. Yeah, and then that would trigger like dominance behavior, which would then just make them, in my opinion, more likely to feel like they need to exert dominance.
Mm-hmm.
stabilize their identity a little bit.
So transitioning to what's going on next, he's pled not guilty. Do you think him and his defense team are working towards something to get him a plea deal? Do you think the prosecution, with the evidence that they have, would even want to entertain one?
I think that they will. I think that he would want a plea deal, and I feel like this is a pretty airtight case, in my opinion. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know if it is legally, but if they have an airtight case, they might not, go for it. But we also have to remember, like, there's 2 little kids that are survivors here. And I mean, I wonder if they'll take what the family wants into consideration, if they would just rather make a plea and move on type thing. I don't know. So I don't know in this state how much they listen to, because we've seen what happened with Kohberger, right? They told them what they wanted, and that's not really, I think it worked out the way it should have in the end for the best. Yeah. But at the time, everybody was like, what? Like, you did. So I wonder how much they'll listen to what her family and his family want. And I'm curious at what they want. I mean, who knows? They might not even want, the DP for it. I don't know.
I just don't know what it is. I mean, I guess maybe assuming the death penalty, getting that thrown out might be
that's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up Bryan Kohberger too there. Tomorrow night, I'm going to have Alina Smith on from Crime Scene Collective. We're going to be talking about Bryan Kohberger's case. And then I believe Friday night, I'm going to have on a civil lawyer, an attorney on the case, talking about the lawsuit against WSU from the victims' family members. And so you don't want to miss that. So like, comment, subscribe, share, and ring that notification bell. Share the content, guys. Man, I was going to go somewhere and I completely forgot where I was going.
You were like wrapping it up, like to get like everything.
No. I wasn't going to wrap it up though, but there was something else that I was going to say about a lawyer. And it had to do with this case here. And it had to do with, the legality. So what is it that they could be thrown out? I mean, it does seem like an airtight case, but what are some things that maybe perhaps a good defense team could get thrown out? A good defense team could possibly get thrown out the witness statements. If Monique never created a police report and all she did was tell other folks, and all they have are statements, and they have nothing like text messages, nothing in writing, nothing in letters, I think that some of that might be able to be thrown out under hearsay.
I was just going to say, Chloe and Travis taught us all about hearsay rules. That's hearsay.
Yeah. And so, I mean, not saying that it will get thrown out, but I think that that's probably their best bet. I mean, I think the defense is probably going to key in on that and get a lot of that testimony thrown out. Anything from friends. Not saying that it will, but I think that's going to be the focal point. So that way they don't hear about some of these issues that he was having.
I think the fact that he kept the gun is going to do him in. I mean, they were able to match it up with how much more can you get?
I agree. I mean, I think the only thing that maybe perhaps they're going to try to argue that there wasn't enough evidence to get probable cause. I think that's probably going to be the first one we're going to hear. There wasn't enough evidence for probable cause for this, for that, for this, for the search of the vehicle, which they're going to try to use that so they can throw out. I think that's where they found the gun. They're like, oh, well, at the time, they didn't have phone records. His phone records showed he was at work. They didn't have this. All they had was grainy photos of the vehicle, and they decided to search his vehicle, and they found something, so they want to get the vehicle search thrown out. So essentially, we get the weapon thrown out.
Could he say mistaken identity? That's what Army Vet was asking.
I
guess not
guess.
with the car and stuff.
Right. Right. It's possible.
It's going to be hard for this guy to get anything, in my opinion. I feel like I think this is an interesting case too, though, because of the dynamics, and we can see what happens in these types of relationships and situations and how they could still be dangerous years later, and how we should, our subs and stuff should, worry about X, Y, and Z, or how they could relate it to their own lives. But as far as the legalities of this, I really do feel like this is like he's done.
Oh, yeah, I think he's done for. Travis asked, where was the gun found? I think it was found in his vehicle. And was there a warrant? I believe so. I think that's one of the reasons why it took him almost 2 weeks to get everything done and get an arrest, is because, it was around the holidays, around the new year, getting warrants signed, judges in front of things, and getting people, to talk and those type of things, probably delayed it a little bit. But I'm assuming that a lot of that had also to do with getting warrants, but could be wrong. All righty. So, Dr. Vona, what do you got going on the rest of the week?
I think I'm going live in like 15 minutes.
Well, I'll be in the live chat, guys. I'll be
everyone.
I'll be live tomorrow night. Again at about 8 p.m. Central. That's 9 p.m. on the East Coast. That's 6 p.m. on the West Coast. Go check us out. We're going to be talking about the Bryan Kohberger case and some of the I guess benefits that he's been getting. Apparently he may be on the move from Idaho. That's going to be one of the things that we're going to talk about tomorrow night. So
I'll be listening.
Comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys then. Thank you, Dr. Vona. It was a pleasure as always. You guys have a great night.
I'll see you guys.